In today's video, I'm going to talk about the European Charter of Fundamental Rights. What is the EU Charter of Fundamental Rights? The EU Charter of Fundamental Rights is a catalogue of fundamental rights and freedoms. It applies in the EU and is binding on the EU and its institutions. It is also binding on member states of the EU when implementing EU law. Initially, the EU was primarily focused on economic cooperation between the member states. Over time, the member states have come closer together and the EU has gained influence in more and more areas of life. Due to the growing impact of the EU on people's lives and on the way member states acted, the idea arose to create an instrument to ensure that fundamental rights are respected in the process. The Commission was set up to draft the European Charter of Fundamental Rights. This was the first European Convention. It was comprised of members of national parliaments, members of the European Parliament, representatives of heads of states and governments, and a representative of the European Commission. It was chaired by the former president of the German Federal Constitutional Court, Roman Herzog. The EU Charter of Fundamental Rights was proclaimed by the EU in the year 2000. At that time, it was not binding law yet. It was intended that the Charter of Fundamental Rights should become part of the European Constitution and then also become legally binding. The Second European Convention was convened to draft a constitution for Europe. The draft of this constitution was signed in Rome in 2004. In addition to the Charter of Fundamental Rights, it also contained provisions on the organization and functioning of the EU. Some states held referendums on whether they should sign the EU Constitution. In France and in the Netherlands, the majority voted against signing. France and the Netherlands therefore declared that they would not sign the Constitution. Subsequently, further negotiations and declarations took place. Then, in December 2007, the member states of the European Union concluded their efforts with the Treaty of Lisbon. This treaty reformed the functioning of the European Union. It contained essential elements that had previously been included in the draft constitution for Europe. Among other things, it declared the European Charter of Fundamental Rights to be binding. Thus, the EU Charter of Fundamental Rights is much younger than many other treaties on human rights, such as the European Convention on Human Rights. Therefore, it is also more modern in many respects and contains rights that are not included in classic treaties on human rights. For example, a fundamental right to data protection or a fundamental right to consumer protection. The EU Charter of Fundamental Rights is divided into 7 titles. The first one deals with human dignity. It regulates, for example, the right to life, the prohibition of torture, and the prohibition of slavery and forced labor. The second title covers freedoms. This includes, for example, the right to liberty and security, the right to respect for private life, the right to data protection, and freedom of expression. The third title deals with equality. It covers non-discrimination, equality between men and women, and the rights of children. The fourth title deals with solidarity, which includes, for example, protection against unfair dismissal, the right to fair and just working conditions, and the prohibition of child labor. The fifth title is called Civil Rights. This is about the rights of citizens to participate in political life. These include the right to vote and stand for election to the European Parliament, the right to good administration, and the right of access to documents and the right to petition. Finally, the sixth title, Justice, contains fundamental rights regarding trials in the justice sector. These include the presumption of innocence, the right to an effective remedy, or the prohibition of double jeopardy. Importantly, these rights do not apply to all actions or measures states take. The Charter is only applicable regarding the application of EU law. This means that it binds the EU and its institutions, and it is binding on member states of the EU if they apply EU law. There are areas of law which the EU is competent. In these areas, the EU can oblige member states to pass certain legislation or it can enact laws on its own, which are directly applicable in the member states. This concerns, for example, access to the labor market or competition or data protection. If states act in these areas and implement EU law, they must comply with the European Charter of Fundamental Rights. Other areas are not in the purview of the EU. They are reserved for the states alone. States can make their own decisions in these areas. They include national defense, the protection of property, and many areas of the judicial organization. When states act in these areas of law, they are not bound by the EU Charter of Fundamental Rights.